Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Today I'm addressing you from Sri Vrindavan Dham. Just came back from a 1-month tour of the land of the Great Red Dragon, China. It was really nice. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashdaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. So today we're continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, and this will be part 59. You may remember last week we discussed the tamal tree as a stimulus for awakening our love for the Lord. So I thought this week we could speak a little bit about the Kadamba tree. We have discussed the Kadamba tree extensively in previous lectures, but new research has yielded some new and interesting information as well. But I thought we could begin by speaking about trees in general. This will be really interesting for those of you who are environmentalists, concerned about, well, Mother Nature, as we are. First of all, trees were highly revered in ancient Vedic culture, as confirmed in the Agni Purana. There's a few verses here from the Agni Purana which I came across. Nagaro pavane vikshan pramadhari jinatiya sagachin narakam nama drinimbanam radha darshanam. He who, in a city or forest, cuts down trees without reason will enter a hell called Jambaka or Jimbaka, which is dreadful and terrifying. Wow. Taram choche daya jascha vrishchan chaya shushi talan asti patra vana gore pidyate yama karai. One who cuts trees that shade cool places in a thorny forest will be tormented by Yamaraja's messengers. Another verse in the Agni Purana says, O king, if a person plants even a single pious tree, he dwells in heaven as long as 3 lifespans of Indra. It's pretty powerful. And pitaram nopa hamshanti dhurma dharvina lobata. Trees never harm anyone and are always helpful, even to those who inflict harm on them. They are like a parent who tolerates a son who at times causes distress driven by greed for opulence, land, or material possessions. Also from Agni Purana, a man desiring good welfare should engage in planting trees and nurture them with the same love he gives his own sons. It should be noted, though, that trees can be more faithful than one's own son, who may turn away from the injunctions of scriptures and engage in sense gratification. And finally, one should never cut down a fig, banyan, or wood apple tree. Similarly, those trees that are meant for auspicious deeds should not be cut by those who seek prosperity. Wise words from the Agni Purana. Though that's general trees around the world. Now, regarding the trees of Sri Vrindavan Dham, in Krishna book, chapter 22, Krishna addresses his cowherd friends on the banks of the river Jamuna, saying, My dear friends, just look at these most fortunate trees in Vrindavan. They have dedicated their lives for the welfare of others. Individually, they are tolerating all kinds of natural disturbances, such as hurricanes, torrents of rain, scorching heat, and piercing cold. Nevertheless, they are very careful to relieve our fatigue and give us shelter. My dear friends, I think they are glorified in this birth as trees. They are so careful to give shelter to others that they are like noble, highly elevated, charitable men who never deny charity to anyone who approaches them. No one is denied shelter by these trees. They supply various kinds of facilities to human society, such as leaves, flowers, fruits, shade, roots, bark, flavor extracts, and fuel. They are the perfect example of noble life. They are like a noble person who has sacrificed everything possible, his body, mind, activities, intelligence, and words, for the welfare of all living entities. Sri Krishna's words about the trees in Vrindavan. Now our Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, in his illustrious Vrindavan Mahimamrita, goes so far as to say, we're building up here, he writes, I bow down before the great trees of Vrindavan, which are filled with leaves and sprouts, maddened bees, the tumult of many birds, streams of nectar honey, and branches bowed down with many splendid, wonderful fruits and flowers. Then he writes, I pray to become a tree in Sri Vrindavan Dham, and please Shri Shri Radhika Krishna with my limitless, splendid sweet fruits, my unlimitedly splendid fragrant flowers, filled with splendid pollen and splendid honey, my splendid host of birds and my splendid twigs and buds. Oh, let me become a tree in Vrindavan. Now, according to the book Rajani Gantu, it's an ancient Ayurvedic encyclopedia that I found in the Vrindavan Research Institute. There's described that there are actually 27 species of trees on planet Earth known as Devavrikshas, meaning trees on which demigods eternally reside. I thought that was interesting. Here on the earth, these 27 species of trees, they're Devavrikshas, meaning trees on which demigods eternally reside. And one of these 27 trees is the illustrious Kadamba tree. Now, there's a famous story that has been passed down from one generation to another here in Sri Vrindavan. And that is that several centuries ago, when the Mughals attacked Vrindavan, most of the presiding deities were moved, as we know, to Rajasthan, particularly to Jaipur, for protection. Now, after that happened, a little boy asked his grandfather, "O elderly father, please tell me, whom shall we worship now? Well, the deities have gone. Tell me, whom shall we worship now?" So the grandfather smiled, and he said, "Son, Krishna eternally resides in the Tamal tree, and Sri Radha in a Kadamba tree. Therefore, don't worry, we shall simply worship these transcendental trees." Wow. Don't worry, we shall simply worship these transcendental trees. And in Vrindavan, to this very day, the Tamal and the Kadamba trees are still being worshipped. Now, we also discussed last week that because the Tamal tree has a dark complexion and the Kadamba tree has a golden complexion, whenever Krishna sees a Kadamba tree, he's reminded of Sri Radha. And whenever Sri Radha sees a Tamal tree, she's reminded of Krishna. Now, we should always remember that actually all trees in Vrindavan are special. All trees. They're all called Viviksha trees, all eternally liberated souls, who each and every one has a unique rasa with Krishna. A rasa of what? Neutrality. But we shouldn't think for a minute that such a rasa as neutrality is anything less than the rasas of servitorship, friendship, parentalhood, or even madhurya ras, conjugal love. Everything in Vrindavan only lives for the service of Radha and Krishna, so everyone has their part to play. Variety is the spice of life, and Krishna desires it like that. So these trees, they have a rasa with Krishna. It's just as pleasing to him as any other rasa. In Govinda Lilamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that just as devotees in servitorship or vatsalya, Sakhya, and Madhurya Ras experience the 8 symptoms of ecstatic love for Krishna, so do those in the mood of neutrality, such as trees. And what is the stimulus for the ecstatic symptoms these trees sometimes exhibit? The Acharyas say number 1 is the simple fact that they are growing in the Chintamani soil of Sri Vrindavan Dham. In the Braj Renu. We gave so many lectures on Braj Renu. They're growing in that Braj Renu. And actually, remember that the Dham is an expansion of Lord Balaram. So they're growing. They get their ecstatic symptoms just from that. And that fact alone causes ecstatic feelings to manifest from within their hearts. What's more, such trees get to witness the most confidential pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Because those pastimes are performed, more or less hidden, you could say, from everyone else in the kunjas, in the groves of Vrindavan. Just like we sing, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, that Radha and Krishna are enjoying in the kunjas. So the trees are surrounding them, so they see. Another proof that such trees know well of the confidential pastimes of Radha and Krishna is that in Gaur Gonadesha Dipika by Srila Kavikarnapur, he writes that Madhavinda Puri, who introduced the concept of Madhurya Ras and Braj Bhakti a little before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is himself a Kalpa Vriksha tree, desire tree in the spiritual world. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms the same in his Gora Gana Swarup Tattva Chandrika. Gora Gana Swarup Tattva Chandrika, verse 26. He writes, Pura Vrindavane Yabasid Ayam Kalpatur Harer. Madhavinda Puri was previously Lord Hari's desire tree in Vrindavan. And further research revealed that that desire tree is situated in Nidhivan, in Braj. And Nidhivan, of course, we know is one of the places that Radha and Krishna have their very loving pastimes. He stands as witness. And so he knows about these Madhurya Ras. And he preached it on this earth planet by his causeless mercy. Govinda Lilamrita describes that Krishna feels endeared to these trees, and as such he sometimes speaks to them. It's recorded. He says, "Oh my dear friends the trees, O wise ones, is everything all right with you today? Did last night's gentle rains quench your thirst and nourish your flowers and fruits?" And just so that we can understand how exalted these tree, let me say, personalities are, the Acharyas say that in the dark of night, the trees often faint because they're unable to see Krishna anywhere. They faint because in the dark of night, there's no light, they can't see Krishna anywhere. However, there's always a good ending in Krishna consciousness. Later on, when they hear the soothing sound of Krishna's voice or the celestial music that flows from his flute, they come back to life and instantly blossom into many flowers and leaves. Then they shake their leaves in ecstasy, or they shed honey tears, it's described. They shed honey tears and honor Krishna with the smile of their blossoms and their swaying in happy breezes. Our acharyas are so poetic. Hare Krishna. Now, this is all pure nectar. Another amazing detail is that these trees are very fortunate because, why? It's described they get to touch Krishna. How so? Well, it's described. Prabhupada describes in Krishna book, Krishna and Balaram, they're walking through the Vrindavan forest. And when Krishna passes by, or Balaram passes by these trees in the Vrindavan forest, they bend down and touch their feet with the tips of their branches and their blossoming flowers. It's described that by touching the lotus feet of Krishna, these trees experienced a heightened state of ecstasy, which causes a sap from within their trunks to drip from their pores, which muddy the ground everywhere. We've heard of water, or sometimes the cow's milk is muddying the ground, but the sap of these trees in ecstasy muddies the ground. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. However, after Krishna passes by and leaves them behind, they lament for the fact they're not able to follow him because they're trees and they're rooted in the ground. One devotee puts it very poetically. He writes, "Thus the trees decry their lamentable state with inspired sentiments born of separation." Thus the trees decry their lamentable state with inspired sentiments born of separation. And in a mood of extreme humility, which is of course always demonstrated by advanced devotees of the Lord, the trees discuss amongst themselves as follows. "Oh, we're simply rooted in the mode of ignorance. We must have previously committed some offenses because we can't follow Krishna." Of course, they're all liberated souls, or rather Nityasiddhas, so there's no question of any offense on their part, or sin, but this is their humility. However, there's always a good ending. It's described that before Krishna gets too far away, one of their great friends comes to their rescue. And who's that? Who's one of their great friends? It's the wind. It's the wind. For the wind blows very strongly and helps them to bow down and stretch out at a great distance and again touch Krishna before he goes too far away. Now, in order to remove any lingering doubt about these trees, in Vraja Riti Chintamani 2:23, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur nicely glorifies them as follows. "These splendid trees of Brajabhumi are perfectly spiritual in nature. They're full of all potencies, and they're just like incarnations of the Lord." These splendid trees of Brajabhumi are perfectly spiritual in nature. They're full of all potencies, and they're just like incarnations of the Lord. All glories to the trees of Vrindavan. Now, another thing I was reading, another amazing feature of these trees, is that they're constantly yielding ripe, juicy fruits. It took me a while to catch that because, well, in the material world, trees ripen and produce fruits, at a certain time of the year. But in Braj, they're yielding fruits all the time, eternally, and we know that they can produce any kind of fruit from any kind of tree. So it's amazing. It's also said that the wives of these trees appear as vines wrapped around the trees and moisten the ground with their joyful tears of honey and perfume the air with pollen as they embrace their husbands, the trees, the vines. That these vines are the wives of the trees is nicely confirmed by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati in his Vrindavan Mahimamrita, Shakata 2, text 11. He writes, "With their soft flower petal hands, Shri Radha and Krishna carefully watered the trees and vines from the time of their first sprouting. They nourished them and made them grow, at the proper time married each vine to an appropriate tree." And at the proper time married each vine to an appropriate tree. When they saw new flowers beginning to blossom, they became delighted and spoke many playful, joking words. Let us bow down and offer obeisances to these trees and their wives, the vines of the Vrindavan forest. Wow. So again, all trees in Vrindavan are important. Just as kind of a side note to illustrate this, I was reading that when Srila Jiva Goswami bought a plot of land in Vrindavan proper from a personality called Ali Kant Chaudhuri. He was, at that point in history, 500 years ago, Emperor Akbar's local landlord. for 30 rupees. He bought that property for 30 rupees. The original deed, which is now kept actually at the Vrindavan Research Institute here in Vrindavan, mentions that that particular tract of land included Sevakunj, Danguli, Imlital, Shringashtali, and Rashashtali. This is all, for want of a better word, downtown Vrindavan. And its boundaries, this is what I wanted to note, and its boundaries were marked and identified by 4 auspicious trees, the 4 corners of this land which Srila Jiva Goswami bought. The tamarind tree, the banyan tree, the pipal tree, and the kadamba tree. I just thought that was interesting to throw in. Now, in his song, Vibhavari Shesha, from his work, Kalyana Kalpataru, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur glorifies the kadamba tree and its flowers. In verse 6, Yashoda Nandana, Kamsha Nishudana, Nikunja, Rasa Vilasi, Kadamba Kanana, Rasa Parayana, Vrinda Vipina Nibasi. And Srila Prabhupada gives the following translation and commentary, wherein it's describing Krishna and the Kadamba. Yashoda Nandana, Kamsha Nishudana, Prabhupada writes, he is very much celebrated as the son of Mother Yashoda. He's the killer of Kamsa, and Nikunja Rasa Vilasi. He used to dance the Rasa dance in the Nikunja. He used to dance the Rasa dance in the Nikunja. It goes on, Bamsivata Nikunja Kadamba Kanana Rasa Parayana. There are many Kadamba trees. Kadamba, Prabhupada says, is a kind of flower that is especially grown in Vrindavan. Very fragrant and beautiful, solid flower, round. So Kadamba Kanana, he used to enjoy the rasa dance underneath a Kadamba tree. Prabhupada's glorification. Well, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's glorification and Prabhupada's beautiful purport to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing. So, let us conclude today. I still have some jet lag from the China tour. And I'm going to Mayapur tomorrow for about a week. And then for 5 weeks I'm going to be touring South India, selling a new book which we've produced based on my earlier lectures in this series, Glorifying Vrindavan. It's called The 12 Forests of Vrindavan, the Western Bank. And next book will be the Eastern Bank. But we printed it it's very beautiful. My disciples printed it's called like a coffee table book, for want of a better word. And very beautiful. So we printed 1,000, and we're going to travel throughout South India and meet the wonderful devotees there and see their wonderful deities and give lectures and sell these books to further spread the glories of Sri Vrindavan Dham. So let us conclude today with one of my favorite poets, Sir Das, who writes in a poem as follows. Whenever Krishna feels separation from Sri Radha, he wears a Kadamba flower garland around his neck, close to his heart. The tenderness, the color, the fragrance, and the touch of the Kadamba flowers feel exactly like Sri Radha to him. When Sri Radha becomes Manavati, or prideful in anger, Krishna sits under a Kadamba tree and cries. His tears go into the roots of the tree, and it appears as if Krishna is watering the Kadamba tree with his tears. Then he sends Kadamba flowers with the gopi to Sri Radha. When these flowers touch the lotus feet of Sri Radha, the gopi says, "O dear Sri Radha, please feel the tears of Mohan, which are presented in the wetness of these golden flowers. O Pyari, dear, why have you so much man or anger? Please abandon it and run to Mohan." Sir Das says, "O friend, look now, Kadamba-like Radha is running towards Tamal-like Krishna." What an ending. "O friend now, Kadamba-like Radha is running towards Tamal-like Krishna." Hare Krishna. All glories to all the trees of Vrindavan Dham. Yes, so we'll finish today, and I think the next subject matter will be dancing. dancing in Vrindavan, and of course we'll have to include dancing in Mayapur as well because of Gaur Nitai and Nataraj, but I'll study that this coming week. So thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, revealer the Dham. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shyamal Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari, Shrimati Radharani ki, all the trees of Vrindavan ki, Mayapur Dhama ki, Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yajna ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Shyam.